Hey guys, today I'll be sharing an 8 times hopper speed shulker loader. This shulker loader can fill shulkers at 72,000 items per hour and works with mixed item types. Before I go any further, I'd like to mention that this design does share a few similarities with another 8 times speed shulker loader by Mr. Korwaldski. I designed this completely independently from him, and I only came across his design while making this video. But a link to his video will be put in the description, so check it out. So I originally designed this shulker loader for a large-scale furnace array that I was working on. I would unload the hopper minecarts in this hopper minecart unloading station, which unloads the hopper minecarts at 8 times hopper speed. And so it only made sense to also fill the shulkers at 8 times hopper speed. This had the bonus effect that each shulker box input to the system would also lead to a single shulker box output to the system. If I had, for example, two 4 times speed shulker loaders here, a single shulker box input to the furnace array would lead to 2 partially full shulker boxes instead of just 1 full shulker box output. So how does this design work? Once items are detected inside of the system, a observer clock is activated. This then quickly fills up a shulker box. Once the shulker box is full, which we detect using this dropper that eventually reaches signal strength level 2, it deactivates this comparator, which sets for a sequence of events that breaks the shulker box and replaces it with a new one. So how do we get the shulker box out of its confined space? Well, if you push in a block to break the shulker and quickly retract it, it can actually drag this shulker box back for the ride. As you can see, the shulker box was dragged along with this block. However, most solid blocks are fairly unreliable. As you just saw, the shulker box remained behind. The 3 blocks, after some testing, that I found were the most reliable were composters, cauldrons, and honey blocks, all due to their unique hitboxes and interactions. With the composter and cauldron, their unique hitbox that allows an item to sit inside them allows the item entity to be dragged back along, as you can see. Same thing works with a cauldron. Originally I went with a composter, but after some testing I would lose a few shulker boxes, around 1 in 30. Mr. Kowalski also uses a composter in his design. I suspect that some shulkers may be lost due to the fact that composters have hopper support, and so if a shulker were to sit inside of a composter, it wouldn't actually get sucked up. And so in the case that it would happen, it would just despawn. The cauldron presents the second issue with both, being that sometimes there's some random momentum that, if in a perfect spot, can cause the shulker box to just randomly glitch out and fly all over the place. I tested all 3 in a system like this, where I would put in my testing block, cover it up as it is inside the actual shulker loader, and then start a fast clock that would repeatedly place the shulker box and then collect it using the block. This shulker box is then put back into the dispenser, and I would see how many shulker boxes I would have at the end of my testing. And so I would tick warp each of them for 10 hours each. And what I found was after a 10-hour tick warp, I would lose around half of all the shulkers using a composter. I would lose 1 if I was using a cauldron, and I wouldn't lose any if I was using honey. I would further test this with honey afterwards, after I found that honey was the best of the 3, and for another 100 hours, and it also didn't lose a single shulker box. If you're playing in a version below 1.15 where you don't have access to honey blocks, you could use a system like this, where you have a cauldron on top of a hopper minecart. This is also 100% reliable. If you're trying to design your own shulker loader. A system like this can also work. I didn't use this configuration or this configuration since I wanted to reduce the total amount of entities within the system, just for lag purposes. There are a few improvements that you can make to the system. You could shave off a block on top to make it all more compact, and you don't necessarily have to lock every single hopper here. I chose to since it just worked cleaner in my testing, and it allowed for all the droppers to have the same amount of items, which made it so that in the end it would be balanced. And so if you want to flush the system, it would only take a reliably short amount of time. If you're playing in a version below 1.14 and you don't have access to the composters, which can be filled up to a level 4, which gives up a signal strength level of 4, you only actually need to power this hopper, which would QC power this dropper, which would allow this dropper to return to a signal strength level below level 2. Another improvement that you could make, that I actually did when I put this in my furnace array, is the activation. And so, depending on your item flow, this system that I use here to turn on the clock can continually pulse. It doesn't actually have an effect on the system, it doesn't break it, but it can be annoying. And so what I did was I would take an output from this minecart unloader to activate the clock. But that's completely optional as well. You can also shave off a few blocks at the bottom, but I just found that it worked cleaner with the timing when I set it out this way. If you want to link multiple shulker unloaders together into a single output stream, you could take the hopper output, like so, and then connect it to a single hopper line, like this. And just have that go along in either direction, doesn't matter. If you want it to go the other way, so have it come through underneath, that's also possible. So this is the item collection. You'd have to drop it 2 blocks, like so. You would replace the block that this repeater is sitting on with a hopper, and that would be your other hopper line. If you want to build it, here's the material list. It doesn't need to be concrete, any solid block is fine, and any block that slime can't stick to will also be fine in the case of terracotta. So it's usually easiest to build from the bottom up, so I like to start with an upwards facing observer with 3 more observers facing into it, upward sticky piston, and then a sticky piston like so. From here, 2 upwards facing droppers, then upwards facing dispenser, and an iron door here. From here you want a observer like so, and another observer facing into it, an iron door on top of this observer. From here you want to take solid blocks here and there, and put powered rails on top. These can also be activated rails. And then looking into those rails, you'd want 2 observers. From here, you'd want to start your clock, so 1 observer here and another observer on top. Now you want to place 3 blocks like so, 1, 2, 3, with a comparator this block, and then 2 4-tick repeaters. On the end over here, you'd want to place a sticky piston with an observer facing this way. And then on top of the iron door, you want to place a solid block a block here, and then a 2-tick repeater. You don't have to place a shulker box here, but I would recommend putting a couple inside the dispenser before you actually start the shulker filler. Now you'd want to place 3 droppers like so, and a downward facing dropper here. Now you want to get your sticky piston, and then honey block. This will be the shulker braking mechanism. Now you want to place a honey block here, and a downwards facing sticky piston here as well. Now you want to put a solid block off of this observer, and then a downward facing observer here. Now you want to place a comparator here onto track mode, and a comparator here taking a reading from this dropper and pointing into this comparator. You also want to put a 1-tick repeater on top of the observer. From here you want to take the sticky piston, put it facing downwards here, and then a regular piston facing upwards. You also put your composters here, one here and one down here. Now you want to fill the composters. This top composter needs to be at fill level 2, and this composter needs to be at fill level 1. Once the composters are filled, you can put your observer here. Now we'll put the shulker input line, so a hopper pointing here and then 2 hoppers pointing into it. I like to put a dropper here just to reduce lag. It needs to be a dropper or a furnace and not a composter, since the slime will stick to it. And here you could put a barrel or a chest for your shulkers, or connect it to wherever you're getting your shulkers from. Now for your output line, you want to figure out where you want your shulker boxes to go. I'm just going to build it like how it is in the world download. So 2 hoppers going out like so, and facing into a chest. Now you need 3 blocks that slime won't stick to, so obsidian or terracotta, and put 1 here and 1 here. This one can be terracotta or obsidian, but I prefer a furnace since it's on top of a hopper. It'll reduce lag. You can put a dropper, but it'll get powered and that'll cause more lag than it'll be saving. The next step is putting a comparator on top of this terracotta. And then we could start putting our droppers and hoppers in. So 1 dropper here facing into this dropper, another dropper here facing into this dropper. Then you want 2 downwards facing droppers here and here. Now for the hoppers, I'll start with this one. You need 1 hopper like so, a hopper on top of this hopper, 2 downwards facing dispensers, and then 2 hoppers like so. You also want an observer here facing into this observer, an observer on top, an observer pointing into this dropper, and then a powered rail here. Here you want a hopper and a hopper, a dropper here, and then 2 hoppers on top, and 2 more like so. This one could also be a dropper. Here you want 2 more hoppers, another hopper on top of this guy, a hopper here, hopper on top, hopper, dropper, hopper, hopper, hopper. If you want the activation system to be the same as it is in the world download, a transparent block here, comparator reading from that, comparator pointing to a solid block, Sigma blocks like so, with powered rails on top, an observer facing into the rails, a sticky piston, and then a slime block into an observer. These 2 slime blocks can also be honey blocks. Now for the hopper blocking mechanism, 2 blocks here, and then 4 blocks on this side. You want to take 3 observers pointing into this sticky piston, a iron trapdoor, another observer, upwards facing sticky piston, a composter. Now you want to fill the composter to level 4. I'll put an observer looking into the composter. Solid blocks. Solid blocks here, here, and here. Comparator here and here. Go up the block, and then back down a block, and then to the end. Same thing on this side, up, down, to the end. And you want to put a redstone line on top of these blocks. And then 4 1-ticker feeders. Now the shulker filler is technically done, but if you want the minecart unloading station like I showed in the video, you'd want to first lock these hoppers. You could do this by powering these redstone lines. Then you want to put down 2 rails. You want to get some walls, like so. Put down your hopper minecarts, separate them, break the rails, then nudge the minecarts into the corners. Now you want to remove the cobblestone walls, and to protect the minecarts, we cover them with glass. Then you want to push down the glass. Oops. Now you want to put a detector rail here, a block, another detector rail on top, and then this will connect to your railway system. From here, a comparator taking a reading from this detector rail, a repeater here, 2 blocks like so, 1 block up, redstone torch, redstone dust, and a fence gate here. Remember to unpower the hoppers, and you're done. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.